press against Sheshka, Mosconi run riot, and there are big questions ahead for lots of teams in EuroLeague this week. It's all ahead on Sweet 16. Tune in.
Hello and welcome to the 8th episode of Sweet 16, an open look on EuroLeague basketball. Well, it's practically a Hanukkah miracle right now after all the great games we've had and the great games we're expecting. But first, as always, hello to the great co-hosts. Hi, Emmett. Hi, Aris. How are you guys?
Greetings from Dublin here, BIEHQ, with my coffee. It's still quite early here in Dublin, but we're getting through it.
Hello from Athens. It's not early for everyone, but for me it still is.
4 minutes to get through all the action that just happened in EuroLeague. It's the 4-minute warning. And as ever, the 4-minute warning isn't quite 4 minutes, but, you know, it's that time of season where there's too much to talk about, folks. So maybe let's call it the 4x4 minute warning in this case. So we're going to get to the big games in a second, but we want to talk about the playoff contenders and the ones who are not right now top four contender teams, because a few of them had really important wins this week. Starting off right away with Bamberg with a big 20-point win over Barcelona, which was a bit more complex than the final score indicated. But a lot of guys just showing up that day. Daniel Theiss, Nick Melly, Moshe, great day for Bamberg, really.
It was a great effort by the entire team. I mean, we've talked about Bamberg. We've talked about Coach Trinchieri, the Wizard. You know, if we would have played a what-if game, what would have happened if, you know, they wouldn't have lost all those close games at the beginning of the season? They were in a much better position within the standings, but, you know, they are so much fun to watch. And, you know, we've been talking about a lot of, you know, not the top-ranked teams, just because, you know, they are doing something that they continue what they've started doing last year. If it's them, when we're talking Bamberg, if it's Zvezda, which we'll discuss in a short while, you know, every team, it doesn't matter if you're Cheska, if you're Madrid, Baskonia, Maccabi, Dachka, whatever. Each team that's going to get down to Freak City, they're going to get a brawl, man. They're coming for a fight in a way. A good fight, obviously not a violent one. We're talking Freak City at its best. They might not have the biggest arena, but their fans are as good crazy as it gets, and it gives a great push to their team. And you know, if we're talking about fans, we're talking about Zvezda. They were in an away game that you've watched, and they pretty much smoked Žalgiris.
Yeah, they absolutely did, and like, you know, it was because the score made it look a bit more merciful than Žalgiris was in the end, but that's because Zvezda didn't need to do anything after half time. Zvezda just came out. They kept Žalgiris to 7 points in the first quarter, putting up 27 on their own. Branko Lazic, great game, just like slicing through the D. Onion Kuzmic, even in the first quarter alone, his performance was huge for them. Like, you look at Milko Bjelica, and I love Milko, but if you told me I was going to be calling Milko Bjelica a defensive beast this season before the start of the year, I'd have been kind of going, really? Come on. And it's like, he's basically been an absolute terrier. And like, you go through all those, and I haven't even got to Marko Simonovic. He was arguably only the fourth best player on the night for Zvezda, and Simonovic had a good game. So Zvezda looking for real, looking serious. One other team I suppose people want to take more seriously, but I suppose the caliber of the opponent they beat means it's hard to do it. Anadolu Efes with an impressive display over Galatasaray. The big caveat obviously being it was over Galatasaray.
You know, Gala has become a team that, you know, they've released just too many players right now. I don't think that they are not even in a position to be as the dark horse of, you know, putting teams through anything right now. They need to find themselves, to refine themselves, to redefine themselves, and see if the, you know, whatever pieces they've got left on the chessboard are enough to do something, because they've sustained too big of a losses right now. The team is obviously not functioning. Doesn't matter who they're going to bring right now. I think it's too late for them. It's, in a way, that their season is done, and you know, it's a shame. It's a shame because it could have gone better. It should have gotten better, and it didn't.
Oh yeah, the only question with Gala now is whether they come last or not. They're not going to the playoffs. Like, they just look an absolute shambles to me. And I suppose one team which it's pretty much impossible to predict is Zenit Kazan, because they go from some great performances some weeks to what happened against Baskonia last week, which was not a great performance.
To say the least, it was obviously another great game, another offensive display with with the entire Basque team. I mean, if it's not Larkin, it's Bobois. If it's not Bobois, it's Voigtman. They are just too fun to watch. They are a great offensive team, and take a look at the stats. They have Voigtman putting up 14 points, taking down 8 rebounds. They had Bobois with 29 points in 19 minutes. It's crazy. It's something that you would have wished for every team to be as dominant offensively as this one. And whatever team they want to beat, they beat them. And Kazan got a solid game from Langford with 19 points. They had a solid game with Parhovsky with 13. They had a solid with Paul Stoll, but that was pretty much it. It's like these 3 guys came up alone. They showed up for they showed up for what? It's only 3 players versus one of the deepest teams. And need I remind you that Prigioni just announced his retirement, which means their ever so deep backcourt became just a bit thinner.
Yeah, it turned out to be the Pablo Prigioni farewell game from EuroLeague. Pablo's retired, of course, and all the best to Pablo going forward. You've been a great servant to the sport. But Baskonia, wow. I mean, they just came out and they put a beating on them. And it's like, this is the thing, like, Baskonia have had a few games with this year. Like I said, I think in an earlier episode, well, I know I said, there's going to be the odd game where Baskonia's on the wrong side of one of these types of games because they're just going to be a bit tired from the schedule. But there's more often than not, they're going to be the type of team that's dishing out these random ass, just dominant games where, not out of nowhere, but far greater margin of victory than the bookmakers might expect. I'll put it that way. They definitely got that last week. Utter domination.
Let's just say that the fact that only 3 players from Kazan showed up for that game offensively, did some sort of a service to Baskonia. I'm not saying they should have won. They were obviously the favorite to win this game, but with only Langford, Parhovsky, and Stoll arriving to that game, it was wow. That was not easy to watch for the Kazan fans. But moving from Baskonia, like from one Spanish team, let's move to another. One of the greatest rivalries, maybe a potentially final game of the season. Madrid, Cesca. One of the things that was that stood out the most for me at one point of the game was as Cesca was approaching the 70-point barrier, they had only 1 3-pointer made, and on top of that, 72.4% for 2 points. That is just too much. I mean, on top of their on top of Cesca's problems, first of all, Madrid's defense allowed way too many easy points on the for 2 points.
Yeah, defensively Madrid still have a bit of work to do, but right now they're living off some smart stuff. Like Gustavo Ayllón was able to do a lot of work at the 5. So was Anthony Randolph as well. We know the 5 hole is quite literally a hole for Cesca right at the moment, and there was plenty of success for Madrid down that route. 28 points between Ayllón and Randolph, and another 4 for Othello Hunter. Then of course you have the typical Sergio Yui just coming out, doing his thing. Like a lot of what Sergio does is actually some pretty conventional point guard stuff. It's that he can throw in these video game cheat code moments around it that sort of makes him this mysterious godlike figure. So you throw all that together plus Luka Doncic, and offensively Madrid can get it together, but definitely there are some interior D questions still to be asked about Madrid. I suppose, Aris, because I know you've had a busy week watching a lot of basketball, did you get a look at this game?
Well, it was a game that proved that after all, there is hope for every other team against CSKA. Mind you, of course, that Real Madrid is not just every other team. It's one of the main title contenders, but the fact is that CSKA, after a great stretch during which there were some injuries, both for Teodosic and De Colo, during which the team was still winning, they seem that they have hit a wall. I'm not so sure that this has to do with anything else than with the team trying to be ready when it counts the most. That means that they can play at a high level during the whole season, so they are just taking a little break in order to be at their best shape at the end of the regular season, and when the playoffs will start. And CSKA Moscow is the only team that has the ability to drop some games, but they have to bounce back quickly because now they are vulnerable. Now everyone in the second place can think that they can get the top spot from them. Basketball-wise, it was everything that we expected, and it was a reminder that Yul is still the man in Madrid. We have talked about Doncic a lot, but we have seen in that game that Yul and Matsiulis were the keys.
Absolutely on like the Yui and Matulis bits, and we're going to get a bit more to Jonas Matulis in a second. But obviously, the one huge game at the weekend, which was last week, was of course the derby, Olympiacos beating Panathinaikos, hold the season series now 2-0. So that's a playoff advantage for them if they should finish with equal records, of course. No Nikolatis for Panathinaikos. What was your thoughts on this game, Aris?
Well, there was not a surprise in that particular game. The surprise was that Panathinaikos, without Kalathis in the game, managed to stay close, but that has to do also with the amazing night that both Casey Rivers and of course Mike James had. But that's the issue with Panathinaikos. Panathinaikos, it kind of reminds the way that Baskonia played when you have both Bourousis and James on the same time on the court, and it's a very different team with Kalathis inside. Kalathis is the key to everything that Panathinaikos does good on the offensive end. Not so much Casey Rivers, but Mike James tried to beat alone Olympiacos, to do it all by himself. This is not doable at this level. It's not that Olympiacos don't have the means to prevail in such a game. And it was also interesting to see the fact that Panathinaikos is still a work in progress. Kenny Gabriel, who was added in order to fill the void of James Gist, did not play it. Alessandro Gentile started the game and played only 8 minutes. What he did was right. He tried to post shorter opponents, but his shots didn't go in, and Pasquale didn't want to take any risk with him on the court after that. So the main key, the main issue for Panathinaikos is that everyone knows that you can stop Kalathis, and that means practically stopping Panathinaikos. I believe that that was the plan of Olympiacos. Olympiacos executed it, and they didn't flinch when they have shown that James and Casey Rivers could help Panathinaikos stay in the game.
And just to back up what you said there, Aris, like Moshe was looking at the stats before we started recording. Only 9 assists, 15 turnovers with Panathinaikos. Moshe, I mean, that's like, you know, crying out for like the Turline and Kalathis, really, aren't they?
It is. You know, whenever you look at the stat sheet and you look at the assist to turnover ratio, you look for at least a ratio of 1-2, meaning for every 2 assists, like maybe 1 turnover, and that's like not ideal, but it's not that bad. And to have it like go almost the other way around, they had a 1 to 1.5. You know, it's crazy. It's something that, you know, it's very hard to win a home game doing that, not to mention an away game that they were playing. But for me, you know, what I'm taking from this game is the big plays made by Papapetru in the fourth when Panathinaikos were getting closer and closer. He had some great shots, and, you know, great job by Papapetru.
And that wraps up our look back at the games of last week. Now it's time to both look back and forward at the same time with the Coach's Playbook and the Scout's Notebook, both coming up right now. The Coach's Playbook, where we look at the strategies that worked and that need to work in the coming weeks in EuroLeague.
And we move on to the coach's playbook, and especially to Coach Bagatski's playbook for Maccabi Tel Aviv. The question, of course, on the hand is Quincy Miller. Maccabi needs any help available, and Miller can be the key in order for the team to bounce back and perform like they should be. Miller was added in order to be a primary weapon for Maccabi. Due to his injury, that was not the case, but we finally see him on the court, and even his presence can help the team feel a little better. Don't you think so, Moshe?
Well, I do, and we've seen it like from the pretty much the get-go. Coach Bagatskis opened with him. He was on the starting lineup, and from the get-go, you could have seen him smile, very energetic, very much involved within the game. And what surprised me was the matchup at the beginning. He put Miller as the 5 versus Semi Erden. Now, when we saw the game as it developed in the first few minutes, it was very obvious why. He used Miller's athleticism and his length to stop Semi Erden, and it cost Darushaffaka dearly at the beginning because of that decision on the defensive end. Maccabi managed to put up an 8-0 lead right from the beginning. And Aris, I think you will agree with me on this one, specifically with the way the game developed. Maccabi can take a few good things from that game, especially Coach Bagatskis, because his team was up by 17 points and they entered the fourth quarter down by 7. They've shown resiliency, I think, for the first time this season after losing a big advantage, and maybe even a bigger on an even bigger note, with like you saw Sonny Weems delivering 8 assists. I think the biggest news came from the direction of Mike Zerbs, that these two guys worked great on the offensive end.
Yes, but we have to take 2 things into account. First of all, now the cat is out of the bag. Zerbest was used as a bait from Maccabi in order to get another big man. He was offered to Barcelona, so I don't exactly know what will be the future of Zerbest with the team. That's one given. Speaking about this game, yes, he was more than good. The other thing is that this game against Darushaffaka may fool a lot of us on the level of Maccabi's progress. Why I'm saying that? Because obviously Bagatskis couldn't have a better scouting report for any team in the universe than Darushaffaka. He was the assistant coach. He knows every play. He knows the team. He knows all the strength and all the little secrets that may have played a role in the final result. It's a unique situation with Bagatskis leaving mid-season Darushaffaka in order to become the head coach of Maccabi. So Bagatskis was a real big weapon of Maccabi in this game. We will have to see in the next games if something is really changing other than the mood of the team.
And as you know, there are 2 sides to each coin, and the other side of the Maccabi Dachka coin was, well, simply the Darushaffaka side. They've managed to show again a great character coming back from a big lead, but again it was versus Maccabi, something that a lot of teams have done before. They knew that Maccabi has a problem with the power forward position, but they didn't took full advantage of it. And still, Aris, there is something that I was following throughout David's Blad years with Maccabi, and obviously after and quite before, but in his last term with Maccabi, it was one of the keys for each Maccabi win was, on the defensive end, he managed to stop, whenever Coach Blad was able to stop his rivals under 50% for 2 points. He used to get a win. This year, we are seeing Darushaffaka inconclusive. It means that they are getting over 50%. A lot of games, and they still manage to win. And the ones that they stop their rivalries under 50, they can also lose. What do you make of this situation?
I believe that sometimes the number just lie. David Blatt made his name even before the EuroLeague Final Four and the win with Maccabi Tel Aviv, because he was a defensive specialist. his matchup zones are a talking point all over Europe, and they were for many years. This kind of defense brought his first big success, 2007 Eurobasket trophy with Russia. So he needs athletes, he needs players with good length that they can cover the court, and they have also the IQ to start a defense from a zone setup and then turn it into a man-to-man situation in order to get the stop and start the fast break. I believe that he found just the guy in order to do that with Will Clyburn, who is not only a great player on the offense, a fearless cutter who can finish around the basket, but also he has a great defensive presence. But that can't be said for all of Darussafaka's personnel, and especially for the big men. The absence of Slaughter is really hurting them, because he's the only really athletic center of the team, and I believe that this is an issue. It's not just about the numbers, it's how you transition from defense to offense. That was one of the main keys of success for Maccabi, and that's what they are trying to do also in Darussafaka. You can argue that the backcourt, if not the same, is also very talented in Darussafaka, because you have Scotty Wilbeck, you have Wanamaker, and you have a great shooter like Bertans on the side. So the real question in their defense is the front line, and not only the defensive abilities of the team, but also the way that this defense instantly transferred to offense. After all, the injury of Slaughter was what brought Zizic to Darussafaka, so Blatt need athletic bigs.
And now it's time for the Scouts Notebook, where we look back at key performances during the week in EuroLeague to see who stood out and why.
This week we have a very long list of noteworthy appearances, of great performances by players. And I want to start by welcoming Johannes Voigtman to our list. Another great game, 14 points, 8 rebounds. You know, this guy is so long. Also, he had 4 assists, but let's just leave that on the side for a second. The guy is so long. He rolls great on the pick and roll. He can shoot from outside. He can shoot from mid-range. Aris, maybe one of the most efficient weapons at the 5 position?
Well, Voigtman is having an amazing season, no doubt about it, but he was not an unknown quantity. He was one of the standouts for Frankfurt when they won last season the FIBA Europe Cup. The other standout was Jordan Theodore, who is having also a great season in Banvit, but that's another story. So the surprise is how Voigtman managed to be so consistent and get to such a prominent role in Baskonia in such a short time. Of course, it's obvious that he is hungry. He wants to make a name for himself, and maybe that's the main difference that he and Andrea Bargnani has, even though Bargnani is so injury prone that you can never know if his body is ready to help him. But Voigtman has emerged as one of the up-and-coming players of Baskonia, and that means good news for the owner of the team, Hosan Keraheta, who is notorious for buying relatively cheap and then selling in much higher prices to the bigger clubs in Europe.
You know, since we're discussing big guys right now, another guy that we've mentioned last week was Ante Žižić, and we've seen him, have another standout performance. I simply like the kid. He did whatever he wanted to do. When he locks in the paint, he does what he gets what he wants. He can shoot the ball from mid range. He might not have done it a lot of times versus Maccabi because he kept the ball alive on the offensive end with just tipping it, allowing second chances on the offensive end for Dachka. When he locks his guy, he makes a basket. He looks NBA ready. I gotta say it right now. He looks ready.
Well, I wouldn't say NBA ready because it's a quite different animal. But first of all, we have finally met a player who can compete with Luka Doncic for the Rising Star Award. That's for sure. His second game against Maccabi was really, really impressive. And like Doncic, when you watch him on the floor, you don't think that this guy is 19 years old. That's what makes all the difference in the world. You see a real player who is ready to contribute. He's already contributed a lot to Darusafaka. I don't know what was the planning and if they expected from him right away to be such a help. Of course, with him already being NBA bound, it's natural for Coach Blood to hope that Jesus could help him right away. And considering the fact that he's just a kid, he's impressive. He's more than impressive. His first game was not something that big, but the second game against Maccabi was a real eye-opener. And of course, he's not going to dominate games like he did in the Adriatic League, but he's a real asset. He's a real asset, and that's not a small thing to say. It's obvious that he has the tools to make it also in the NBA, and the main question is how much help he can give right away to Darusafaka in order for Darusafaka to achieve some of their goals, because at this point they seem to be on the path to get to the playoffs, but nothing is really guaranteed. They are not among the top seeded teams in the Turkish BCL, so Darusafaka needs something in order to ratify this season, which by any means is more than good already. But I believe that they made all this effort, they signed all those players, they got David Blatt back to Europe in order to achieve something big, and big in Europe means winning a title.
Without a doubt, we've seen great game by Zizic. He made his presence felt, but he was not the only one who made his presence felt. As I've mentioned earlier, when we covered the 4-minute warning, I said that, I was very happy with what I've seen from Papa Petru, his big shots, like when Panathinaikos were coming closer and closer. It's simply fun for me to watch him doing what he did that game.
Well, I'm not probably the right person to speak about Ioannis Papapetru, because I can't not be impartial. I am biased. When we talk about Papapetru, he's a great guy, and what you have seen on the court is what Olympiacos is seeing regularly on practices. Papapetru is not a household name yet, but he is the next leader of Olympiacos. At this point, this is obvious. He is grooming for this position from the first moment he was signed. His offensive talent is amazing. You have not seen half of the ways this guy can score. He's very athletic for European standards. You have seen this with the dunk he made against Panathinaikos. He's a great shooter, a consistent shooter, not a streaky shooter. You get the impression that he is streaky because he does not take so many shots during the games at this point. I believe that he found finally his stroke because he changed the way he shoots slightly a lot during the last 2 seasons. I believe that he's finally there, and he's going to be the leader, I believe, not only of Olympiacos, but considering the fact that Giannis Antetokounmpo will not be available for the qualifying games of the national team, he's going also to be one of the key players, if not the leader also of the new version of the Greek national team. He has grit, he never backs down. He's the sweetest person that you can talk to. You understand that he's still a kid when you see the way he reacts when he gets yelled at by his teammates or the coach or everyone. He's making without a lot of noise the next step in his career this season, and the fact that you have seen him shoot so many long distance shots have to do with the fact that he's playing as a stretch four. This is his role this season in Olympiacos, at least in the offensive end. He can do much more when he gets the ball on the court.
Another great performance that we could have not overlooked because it was simply amazing was what Sonny Weems did for Maccabi versus Darussafaka. It wasn't just the points that he scored. His 8 assists were so important simply for the fact that he managed to do something that Maccabi were expecting for a long time. He was playing the high pick and roll with Mike Zerbs, allowing Mike putting great shots in very difficult moments when Maccabi needed easy points. And I think that, Sonny with him, when he's having a great game, that Maccabi are one step closer of, I don't want to say securing a win, but closer to getting there. With him being as efficient as he was, and he had a great game on all aspects. With him or without, and without him, it's two different teams for Maccabi.
I don't think that he has to prove anything at this point. The Maccabi situation was bad from the get-go, and I believe that there is still a lack of chemistry and an issue that has to do with Wims and Andrew Godlock. It's not their fault. They are just two players who need the ball in their hands. They can't really play off the ball. Wims can play, but that means that he will be a lot less dangerous to any opponent. In that game, you have seen what Wims can do with the ball on his hands, and since Maccabi is not bringing, at least for now, a real playmaker, a guard that can create for others, that the role that Wims can fill with his. He did it. He kind of did it at CSKA Moscow. He's a prolific scorer. He proved it with Zalgiris. We have shown flashes of his talent in the NBA, and I believe that maybe the solution for Maccabi will be for him to have the ball on his hand. At least that was what we got as an impression after last week's game.
And that we would be expecting to see, obviously, what's he going to do in Maccabi's next game. But there's one player left. There's one player left for us to talk about, actually for Emmett to talk about, and that's Jonas Maciulis. Emmett.
So Jonas Maciulis had arguably the quietest 20-point game I've seen in a long time against CSKA Moscow. Well, we had Ion, Yui, and Doncic doing all of the flashy stuff. What makes Maciulis really stand out is his ability to get the job done subtly. That's fundamentally what it is. Like, he's often like the fourth, maybe even fifth option for Madrid. Obviously, on the floor, he's usually the third or second option, but as a scorer. But the point is, the guy can just rack it up. He's very businesslike in the way he goes about it. And I think that's what really makes him a weapon for Madrid right now, because they're sort of, dazzling teams with a lot of their speed, their pace, their adjustments. And all in the middle of this, and you've got your JC Carr with his big bombs too. You've got this one, veteran Lithuanian guy who just keeps on scoring. And it's almost like, he's hiding in plain sight. He just goes out there, scores a lot of points, does reasonably well on D, and he just manages to blend into the background. It's a remarkable asset really for Madrid to have, because with a team so built on like sort of hype and speed and, obviously the pressure of being Real Madrid, to have a guy who's just so, well, ordinary. And I don't mean as a baller, I just mean as a personality on the floor. It's quite exceptional. Like, he's got his passion, he's got his fire, but end of the day, when he's pretty much on the ball, Machulis just goes out and scores. It's kind of bizarre, and it works brilliantly for them.
Sweet 16, an open look on
EuroLeague basketball, covering 16
EuroLeague teams.
Gonna be sweet. Sweet 16.
It's time for the games of the week this week, and well, we decided to do something different. So we'll do it in three parts. The first will be the games of the week, the potential turning points. There will be the second one, and the third part will be the recoveries. Emmett, since the first game of the week is Unix versus Bamberg, what's your intake on that game?
It's going to be fast. It's going to be really, really fast. Bamberg like to run the ball pretty quickly, whereas Unix have got the beautiful combination of Quimo Cologne and Keith Langford. Not to forget Latavius out there as well doing his bit. But, you throw those sort of mixed together, this should be a lot of fun to watch. Like, I think Trinchieri has his team playing the kind of ball they need to do now to get the win against Unix, but at the same time, you can't just rule out Keith Langford going off for 28 points out of nowhere, and it's sort of ruining Bamberg's day. So, like, this one to me, it just jumps out as it could be the most fun game of the week. I don't know if it'll be the best game, but in terms of enjoyment factor, it's right up there for me. Aris, do you think Unix have a chance in this one?
Unix is on the rise because of the way Keith Langford plays mainly, but I believe that if there is one team that is not represented in the standings the right way, that's Bros Bamberg. The German champs are much better than you can assume just by watching their record, and for them this is a must-win game. We have talked and said many good things about Bros Bamberg in general. They are a better team, obviously, on paper compared to their standing, so they have to get this road win, and that's what really makes this game important. No disrespect to Unix, they have opened many eyes, but the story in this game is going to be Bros Bamberg. Of course, they will stay in playoff contention even if they stay in 7 wins, but this is one of their best chances to get a road win, and they should get it.
That's a huge opportunity there for Bamberg to get to 7 wins. Speaking of games where teams need to make a difference, Moshe, Dashka, Kazan got hammered by Baskonia last week. Dashka got hammered by Baskonia a few weeks ago. Dashka hosting Baskonia this week. I'm guessing that's one that jumps out to you as being Dashka kind of need a performance, especially after what happened against Maccabi.
Well, Dashka definitely needs the win right now. Well, it's a game that we've expected. We wanted so much from it in the last round, like in the first round of the regular season. Right now, it's Baskonia showed that they can pretty much do whatever they want, whenever they want, against most of the teams in the EuroLeague. So I'm looking forward to this game, especially because of that. Dachka could explode offensively easily, but they are not as consistent offensively like Baskonia, which are playing a much nicer to watch basketball. Right now, it's very efficient. They are having maybe potentially their big man is going to be in the old EuroLeague first team. Again, it's not something I know. It's something that I would like to see, and having that 2 years in a row might say something. It's a great game in the making for sure. I know that this game, just as much as Unix versus Bamberg, are not a high-profile game, but they do have they will play a major part for the teams involved, with their race to the playoffs. And that's a nice game for me. Again, what do you think about it?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a good one. I think Dashka are going to put up a much better performance than they did against Baskonia the last time out, because it's hard for them not to, being blunt about it. But I think Baskonia still, if they've got serious top four ambitions, to have a home court advantage in the playoffs, this is the type of game they've got to win. And speaking of teams who've got to get wins, which they need to get if they have serious top four ambitions in the playoffs, Fenerbahce travel to Belgrade to take on Crvena Zvezda. Aris, this one looks very tasty to me entirely.
This is the real test for Crvena Zvezda. If they want to be playoff bound, they have to defend their home court against anyone. Of course, a defeat is not a disaster for Zvezda. Maybe a defeat it will be a much worse result in the long run for Fenerbahce. But the point is that Zvezda have already beaten in their home court CSKA Moscow. They have beaten almost, and they can beat everyone. So this is gonna be a hard one for Fenerbahce and also a hard one for Zvezda. But as the GM said, they have the loudest fans in the EuroLeague, and that can also only help them. Basketball-wise, despite the obvious difference on talent level between the two opponents, they play quite similarly. They are two teams that they want to be very hard on defense, and then try to take advantage of the momentum they build through defense in the rest of the game. I believe that it will all boil down to the level of Crvena Zvezda execution on offense.
Well, I agree, Aris. Fener, they are obviously coming in a way with being a bit the favorites, but Zvezda at home, they beat CSKA, they beat Madrid. Right now, beating another great team could prove to be some sort of a statement. But let's move to the turning points. Maccabi beat down Dachka last week in Tel Aviv, which means they are on their full way. Well, they are not on their full way, but they have started their way to recovery if they want to make it to the playoffs. They will be playing playing at Madrid. What do you think of this game?
I believe that no matter how hard Maccabi will try, Real Madrid will have the first and the last word. They have just beaten CSKA in Moscow, and despite the obvious history between the two clubs, Real is in a much better position right now. I believe that Maccabi will try to do its best, but Maccabi has to solve one key basketball problem and then move on. Who will be the creator? In the last game against Darussafaka, this role was given to Sonny Wims, who had 8 assists. I don't know if against the Real Madrid backcourt defense, Wims will be so creative and so efficient in order to help his teammates. On the other hand, you have one of the best backcourts in the EuroLeague. So this is the real issue for Maccabi Tel Aviv. On paper, the backcourt battle between the two teams is already won by the Spaniards.
It certainly looks like it. Madrid do have a great advantage in pretty much most positions. Maccabi can only come, as with I don't want to say no expectations at all, but let's just say that a win in Madrid would be one hell of a surprise. But right now, we've seen, besides Maccabi and Madrid, we've seen Barcelona falling down, getting a beat down in Bamberg last week. If they want to make the playoffs, they have to win their next game, and they are playing versus Olympiacos.
This is going to be really interesting because, as you said, Barcelona is in a very tight situation and they can't afford any more missteps. But on the other hand, Olympiacos, despite the obvious issues that the team had after the injuries of Printezis and lately of Vasilis Panoulis. It seems that Olympiacos is finally finding some new faces that can contribute. First of all, Ioannis Papapetrou, and also the general mood, the general environment of Olympiacos is building slowly something big. Many talk from the team before the season about the potential of going to the Final Four, but when the season started, everyone said that the first step should be for us to get to the playoffs. Now it's obvious that Olympiacos has on his mind the home court advantage, and in that aspect they are way ahead of Barcelona, which is still trying to figure out what to do after so many injuries. The key for the game, first of all, will be if Vasilis Panoulis will play or not. The time we are taping this show, this is not a given at all. It will be maybe a game time decision. There is also a chance for Spanoulis not to travel to Barcelona, but probably he will travel and it will be a game time decision. And on big games, you can't just underestimate how important Spanoulis is for Olympiacos in general. The good news for the Reds is that Dominic Waters in his first appearance with the team was more than positive, and that they have found some real balance and some real chemistry with things improvised as they got along. Nobody expected Kemberts to be the starting center, but practically that's his role. Everyone was expecting for Patrick Young to be his old self. He's not there yet, but he's contributing. Everyone wanted from players like Papapetrou and Papanikolaou to be real contributors. It was a question mark at the start of the season. Now this question mark is no more. So it will be a test for Barcelona and also a challenge for Olympiacos, because at this point the momentum is better for Olympiacos.
You know, we're talking Olympiacos, but the other side of the Greek teams, obviously Panathinaikos is playing Anadolu. Last time these two teams met, it was quite a game. Anadolu since then made also a few changes to the roster. They've replaced, they brought Brandon Paul, which is, to be honest, I like him better in terms of the size that he has, and you know, it's something that helps him obviously a lot when he's playing for his team. Again, what do you think is going to happen in the OAKA? It's supposed to be, again, another great game, but it's going to have a lot of influence on both teams.
Anadolu Efes has a great history of many big games against the Greek teams in general, but there's also one very interesting side story that Bourousis has amazing numbers against Anadolu Efes every time he plays against them. So Bourousis may be the key of this contest. Anadolu Efes have this season changed drastically the way they played. They have tried to imitate a lot what Olympiacos is trying to do on away. They are trying to suffocate with their defense the opponent and then run in the open court. They're one of the most athletic teams in the EuroLeague, and they try to get advantage of this. That was not the case early in the season, but I have seen them in a pre-season tournament in Crete when they did that against Olympiacos and Tsverna Zvezda, and they were just amazing. So in a way they are two quite different teams, because Panathinaikos will try to get the game in half-court situation and take advantage of Kalathis. It will be also a very interesting duel between Kalathis and Ertel, considering the fact that that Panathinaikos plays at home. I will give them the advantage, but what we have learned from this season edition of EuroLeague is that with few exceptions, pretty much most teams are kind of equal, so nothing will surprise me at this game. I believe that as much as Panathinaikos needs the win, also Anadolu Efes needs a big result on the road, so it's tough to predict what will happen, and even if Anadolu Efes is on the market trying to find a big man, they have also a better momentum at this point compared to Panathinaikos.
It is going to be a great game, and I expect to see it. And obviously, I will see it just like pretty much any other game we will try to watch. We've talked about the games of the week, and it's obvious why they are the games of the week for us. The potential turning points for both Maccabi and Barcelona, which would be extremely hard for both teams. You would agree that both CSKA Milan and versus Milan and Žalgiris versus Gala are in a way recovery games for both teams, for both CSKA and Žalgiris.
You can say that, but as I said before, in this version of EuroLeague, you can expect the unexpected, of course. In both cases, CSKA and Žalgiris are in a much better position than Milan and Galatasaray, but Galatasaray plays at home, so that makes them dangerous for everyone. I remind you that Galatasaray managed to beat Olympiacos, and on the other hand, Milano just does not have anything to lose at this point, and that makes them also dangerous. Milano has to solve a lot of other things, but on paper, even without Rakim Sanders, they are still a very strong roster. They lack on chemistry, they lack on defensive efficiency and consistency, but that doesn't make them such an easy prey for anyone. Of course, I'm not suggesting that Milano will beat CSKA. It will be more than an upset for this to happen, but it will be an interesting game to watch, and I don't believe that both especially Žalgiris and also CSKA will have the chance to not bring their A game and maybe protect some of their players. I'm not seeing that happen, especially in Istanbul. I don't believe that Galatasaray will just lay down, even at this point of the season.
Okay, and that's everything we got for you guys for today. That was Sweet 16, an open look on EuroLeague basketball. And as always, I'm Moshe from Team Scout. You can find me on Twitter at MosesB1 and I am Team Scout. Also on Facebook at Team Scout and teamscout.net. Aris, where can they find you?
You can find me, as always, on EuroHoops. You can follow me at my personal Twitter account at rparkas. On Twitter, you can find me on Facebook under my name, and of course you can see me on Cosmote TV if you are a resident of Greece or a subscriber to our service.
As always, you can find me at BIE_basketball, Facebook.com/ballineurope, and of course at ballineurope.com itself. And also, in a couple of weeks' time, if you're in Ireland, on TG Cahir TV for the Irish Cup finals, you can see me doing the punditry on that, so keep an eye for that.
And thank you, Emmett. And guys, don't forget to subscribe, follow us on SoundCloud, iTunes, and as always on EuroHoops TV. And till next time.
Sweet 16, an open look on
EuroLeague basketball, covering 16
EuroLeague teams. Gonna be sweet. Sweet 16.